What's going on, nation? I'm Scott from MuscularStrength.com, and as you know, I decided to experiment with Nuclei Overload Training to try to spark more growth in my biceps. Now, compared to all my other muscles, I've always just felt like my biceps are lagging, and if what I've been doing wasn't working, trying something out seemed like the best alternative. So I decided to give Nuclei Overload Training a shot, and what I did was perform 100 dumbbell bicep curls a day for 30 days straight. Some days were harder than others, and the weights varied from 35s to 50s depending on how sore I was. Also, I wasn't pumping out 100 reps in a row, okay? I was completing 100 reps as fast as I could, usually in 10 sets of 10 repetitions, and the reason is because I didn't want to have to go too light. Call me stubborn, but even though I'm loading up on volume, I still felt like I needed a bit more stimulation than curling like 5 or 10 pound dumbbells 100 times in a row as fast as I could. But who knows, maybe that could be a follow-up video comparison in the future. If done correctly though, it should only take about 15 to 20 minutes to complete, and let's say I started with 50s but my arms began to fatigue a lot, which did happen. I would just drop the weight to 45s or to 40s or to 35s, whatever I needed to do to keep the rest periods under 1 minute. But the real question is, why did I wait so long to show you guys my results as I did this from October 10th through November 10th? Well, the holidays were a big part of it. I had all kinds of family visiting from Brazil for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, and New Year's. And because I'm also building a pool, the last 3 weeks have been full of design work, lots of shoveling to redo my irrigation lines, and just random BS we really don't need to get into. However, the biggest reason is that a huge part of Nuclei Overload Training is the recovery after the 30 days, and I wanted to be able to talk about that as well as have the time to do a bit more research on Nuclei Overload Training as well. And to be honest, I want to continue with this series for other body parts, but always use this video as a point of reference so I don't have to re-explain everything every time.
But before we get started,
training hard is great, but you need to make sure you're hitting your macros if you expect to recover, especially protein. So I'm giving away 2 bottles of BSN Synthesix Cold Stone Creamery flavored protein, and I'll let the winners decide on the flavor they want, as we have quite a few to choose from. But to enter, all you have to do is 2 things. Number 1, follow BSN on Instagram and post Scott's big bicep sent me on their most recent post. And the second thing you have to do, and this is the most important, guys, is leave a fun comment below talking about which lagging body part you would like to try Nuclei Training on and why. And have fun with this. I'll pick my 2 favorite comments as my winners by the end of the week. And if you're looking to stock up, be sure to use my code SCOTT15 for 15% off and free shipping on GoBSN.com. All right. So first things first, did my biceps actually grow? Well, based on all the comments from you guys I've been getting lately, I'd say yeah, they did. In fact, I noticed about a 1/4 inch difference from when I measured from day 1 to 30 days later and still retain that difference even now. Also, when I first mentioned I was going to try Nuclei Overload Training, a few people commented that any size difference would just be inflammation, not real growth, and would go away after a long rest period. So at face value, I can say to those people, hell yeah, Nuclei Overload Training does work. But that wouldn't be very scientific, would it? Let me explain. Guys, there's a lot more to this than just seeing growth, okay? You have to take into consideration 3 very important things as well. Number 1, newbie gains, which doesn't really apply to me, but should still be noted. Number 2, muscle memory, which does apply to me, and I'll explain why. And number 3, actual growth obtained from additional myonuclei in the muscle. Now, I did quite a bit of research on Nuclei Overload Training, and for the most part, a lot of people are saying the same exact things. In fact, a really great video for you guys to check out later is by Jonathan Megan of Team 3D Alpha called The Best Video Ever on How to Build Muscle Naturally, where he talks a lot about real-life examples of Nuclei Overload Training and goes over a lot of recent studies that now prove it does have truth based in science. But some of my favorite parts of the video include real-life examples where he talks about being a kid growing up in West Africa and seeing merchants who would ride bikes up and down hills every single day with all their merchandise basically strapped to their back, and even though they were under-eating most likely and pretty thin in their upper body, their legs were still really developed, especially their quads. He then goes on to talk quite a bit about West African fishermen and how they develop such dense muscle because every single day they're rowing, they're casting nets, they're bringing fish in and swimming to the bottom of the river to bring up 30-pound buckets of sand to sell, and they do this every single day, which if most of you did this amount of work, even with eating the right amount of food, you'd most likely categorize it as overtraining, right? Let's be honest. But this is just life for them. And don't pull the "it's because they have black genetics" card, because that's just ignorant, guys, and not everyone in West Africa is born shredded with super dense muscle mass. In fact, even the creator of the video, Jonathan, makes this statement because he was also born in West Africa himself. So definitely check out that video. But think about it, guys. Some other real-life examples of nuclei overload training include things like powerlifters. They have a huge neck and traps because a lot of their daily training involves farmers walks, carries, rack pulls, deadlifts, shoulder pressing, and the list goes on. They don't just train these movements once a week. Dancers have insane legs, glutes, and calves from daily dancing. Gymnasts have incredible shoulders, back, and biceps from all the bar and ring work they do daily. Olympic skaters have some of the biggest legs that I've ever seen from skating every single day. And even Arnold said that to bring up his calves, because they were his lagging body part, that he trained them daily. And yes, I know Arnold used steroids, and we know testosterone increases nuclei content. However, that doesn't mean nuclei overload won't work for us natty lifters too. So getting back to my list, let's start with number 1, which is newbie gains. And I'm going to do my best to keep my explanations as simple as possible. Take a look at this image. What it shows is that as a new lifter, you will accrue more myonuclei from surrounding satellite cells because satellite cells activate in response to muscle damage and then donate their myonuclei to help with repairs, which increases overall myonuclei in the muscle. It can also be said that if you're untrained, which means that you don't really exert yourself too much in your day-to-day life, it's more than likely that you're going to be way below your maximum myonuclear domain limit compared to someone who is active. Maybe not a bodybuilder, but plays sports or has a labor-intensive job. This is why new lifters grow more quickly. There's actually a really interesting talk about myonuclear domain theory and hypertrophy on the Stronger by Science podcast with Greg Nuckols that I will post a link to in my pinned comment below if you guys want to check it out. But basically, myonuclear domain theory is, well, it states that how large a muscle can get to some degree is constrained by the number of myonuclei it has. Basically, this means that your muscles can only get so big because your body regulates what it can sustain, and a single nucleus can only maintain a given amount of sarcoplasm, and that if the muscle fiber expands too much, then things would start to break down and function less efficiently. So if we were to introduce more myonuclei into a muscle, it would be able to sustain more muscle mass because the amount of cytoplasm within a muscle fiber controlled by a single myonucleus won't breach its threshold. But how do you accomplish this once the newbie gains phase is over? Or to be more specific, how do you surpass this naturally once you reach your natural limit? Well, let me post this question to all of you. Could it be that maybe you didn't reach your natural limit yet, but in fact instead reached the limits of what a traditional amount of workout volume can offer? What if untapped growth is a byproduct of us thinking our bodies can't adapt well, and the true culprit holding us back is the fear of overtraining? A compelling argument, right? But before we move into that, which is number 3 on my list, actual growth obtained, let's first discuss number 2, muscle memory. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up muscle memory in this video is because my arms used to be a lot bigger a few years ago. In fact, even though I was 10 pounds lighter then, I looked thicker all over, and it's only recently that I feel like I'm getting back to where I was. For example, take this video filmed back in June of 2013. I look much thicker in my chest, arms, and shoulders, and it's for a few reasons. Number 1, I had an incredible pump when I filmed that video. I remember like it was yesterday. I literally did a hardcore upper body workout, looked in the mirror, and I said, I need to film a video right now. And I had Erica get the camera. But number 2, I was also training a lot more frequently back then, and I really don't want to use that as an excuse, but life happens, and a lot's changed in my life since then. Not bad things, just overall healthy adult life growth. But back to my point, if we refer to the photo from earlier, after the growth stage, the muscle is not only bigger, but also contains much more myonuclei. But then as your training volume decreases, it's possible for the muscle to get smaller, but still retain the same number of nuclei. And that's because the loss of muscle size doesn't come from loss of myonuclei, it comes from loss of muscle proteins. Of course, muscle atrophy is always a fear as well, but I didn't stop training, I just wasn't nearly as consistent as I was back then. So in my case, I would say the last 6 or 7 months have been the best dedication to training I've had in years, and I know I can still do even better. So did my biceps really grow a 1/4 inch, or did my overall arms just reinflate due to more training volume and muscle memory kicking in? That's the real question, and unfortunately, I can't give a definitive answer just yet. Mainly because I can't without a doubt tell you exactly how big my arms were in that video that was filmed back in 2013. I know I weighed around 172 pounds and I'm 183 to 185 pounds right now, but I don't want to lie to you guys for the sakes of views on a video. However, this does lead us into number 3 on my list, which is actual obtained growth from additional myonuclei in the muscle, and this is where the science behind the long rest period comes in and why I waited so long to make this video. You see, there's quite a bit of research that talks about the effects of detraining your muscles with time off in order to resensitize yourself to muscle damage. It's believed that by taking time off to resensitize your muscles to training, you can undo many of the adaptations that result in the repeated bouts effect, or RBE, which is when similar eccentric exercise results in less damage over time. Remember guys, your body is smart and is always trying to become more efficient with repetitive tasks. It doesn't know that you're lifting weights trying to get bigger. Your body just knows that it needs to grow and get stronger to handle a task that it keeps repeating week after week and expend less energy while doing it. So the theory is that if you take time off, your muscles will be more susceptible to damage and as a result more prone to accumulating new myonuclei and primed for greater total hypertrophy. Just take a look at some of these recent studies. In 2018, this study shows that age, sex, and muscle fiber type doesn't matter. If you begin to train, you are increasing myonuclear content. And another study in 2018 by Brad Schoenfeld demonstrates that high-frequency training is more optimal in terms of hypertrophy gains than training once a week. So basically full body splits versus bro splits, which is something the majority of us already know and accept to be true. But then the information collected was taken one step further in a more recent study in 2019 where 2 groups of men were given the same amount of training volume, but one group consisted of traditional split training where the other did full body workouts. The results showed that more hypertrophy gains were noticed in full body, and just to make things clear, this means that if you were to complete 20 sets of, say, bench on Monday, but I were to complete 20 sets spread out across the course of the week, such as maybe 5 sets a day across 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, for example, I would grow at a much faster rate. But what does this really mean? Should we all just start going to the gym and train everything every day for a set period of time and then take a long break to detrain from that overloading training stimulus in order to resensitize ourselves to muscle damage? Well, it kind of looks like Jonathan may have hit the nail on the head back in the day, and it's only now that the science is catching up to his claims. At the end of the day, I feel like we are way too quick to classify a hardcore workout as overtraining. To be honest, I just think too many people are lazy, and it's easier to say overtraining than just to go and put the work in. Guys, muscle protein synthesis peaks after 24 to 48 hours. So it makes sense that in order to see more growth, we need to train the same muscle groups multiple times a week, like in full body. But when it comes to training, it's going to be a matter of finding that sweet spot of the perfect amount of daily volume to maximize your gains. For example, in my experiment, I was completing 100 reps a day for one body part to try to spark additional growth because I've already been training for a very long time. So in my case, maybe a full body program combined with additional work like the 100 bicep curls a day challenge could help me bring up lagging areas quicker while also focusing on overall growth. Or maybe I should just focus on high volume techniques in my workouts like drop sets for all muscle groups. In another study by Schoenfeld, he shows that basically you can perform 3 sets of 10 reps and get the same muscle gains as someone doing one drop set. But what does that mean? Well, for one, you can get the work done faster. Instead of resting between your sets of 10 repetitions, you just drop the weight and keep going until all 30 reps are complete. It also means you can achieve the same gains with lighter weight, which means less chance of an injury as well. I know, guys, there's a lot to take in this video, but if I'm being honest, I'm excited in a way that I haven't felt in a long time. Remember when I said maybe you didn't reach your natural limit yet, but in fact instead reach the limits of what a traditional amount of workout volume can offer? Well, then maybe that means there's a lot more hope for myself and my fellow natural athletes out there who want to take their training and gains to the next level, and the equation looks simple enough. Train like Vegeta for a month straight, active rest or deload for a solid 12 to 14 days to detrain your body, then right back to more intense training. Also, if you can truly build the same amount of muscle utilizing techniques like drop sets, then that means you can get the same results using less weight, which equates to less chance of an injury as well. And if we learned anything today, it's that the nuclei don't leave, also known as muscle memory. And what they call overtraining, we're going to call from now on nuclei overload. Oh, and one last thing. Since completing the 100 reps a day for my biceps, whenever I train back or perform biceps movements, the pump and mind muscle connection has been better than ever. And what I mean is, it's super noticeable both visually and physically inside my own body. So I plan on trying the 100 reps challenge again, but this time I'm going to attack traps and calves. Remember that building muscle is an adaptive process. That's why we're only doing this for 30 days. So if you didn't get it on biceps, let's hit traps and calves together with power shrugs and barbell calf raises. I already created a new forum thread and posted my before photos there. And I would love for you guys to do the same thing, and we can keep each other motivated with our weekly results and stories of pain and suffering. Be sure to tap that like button and comment below if you enjoyed the video. It's likes and comments that boost the YouTube algorithm, so even if you just commented something like, "Thanks for the video," I'd really appreciate that. And as always, more good stuff coming soon. See you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'm really excited to take on another journey with all of you with more nuclei overload training. And if you want to be able to access the forums directly from your phone, all you gotta do is click the link below and download my app. I'll see you there.